Hello, good morning. Hope you're very well. It's beautiful weather outside. I'm going to read you some poems because this week we're thinking about We're Going on a Bear Hunt by Michael Rosen. This is Michael Rosen, and I found this book in the school library called I Never Know How Poems Start. So I thought I'd read you some of the poems. It's hard to write poems. I'll read you the introduction page. Introduction. My name's Michael Rosen and I write poems. I do other things as well, like talking on the radio, and I also spend a lot of time visiting schools and talking to children about my poems. Sometimes I suggest that they can write in ways I do. I first started writing poems when I was about 16, and I've been doing it ever since. Poems come in many different shapes and sizes. They can sound as if all sorts of different people are speaking, and they can be about very different sorts of things. They can also be very, very serious about the most awful and tragic things, or they can be full of silliness and nonsense and all sorts in between. So this is a poem called I Never Know How Poems Start. I never know how poems start. Sometimes it's something that I hear. Sometimes it's something I see. Sometimes it's something I remember. Sometimes it's something I imagine. Sometimes it's something I've read. Sometimes it's some of these things all at the same time. A thing I've heard could be a sound like the screech of a seagull or someone saying, "I lost my tooth down the toilet." A thing I've seen could be anything I think looks interesting, like how the back of my hand looks like a map, or an angry man at the bus stop. A thing I remember comes to me when I daydream, like remembering where I used to play or what my grandmother's house was like. A thing I imagine can also be part of a daydream where I say to myself, what if? Like, what if my cat ran away? Or what if my foot went shopping? A thing I read can be a thought that comes to me as I read, like wondering what people in stories are thinking and remembering. So that's a poem. It doesn't rhyme. Some poems rhyme. This poem was inspired by a meeting Michael Rosen had with someone who kept saying wrong. So he'd asked him a question. The people would answer the question and he'd say wrong and know it all. So this poem is called Wrong. We went on holiday with Mr. Wrong. Everything we said, he said was wrong. He asked us if night came before day or day before midnight. Or day before night. We said that day came before night. He said wrong. So he said night came before day. He said wrong. He asked us which came first, Sunday or Monday. We said Sunday. He said wrong. So we said Monday. He said wrong. He asked us if he was telling fibs. We said yes. He said wrong. He asked us if he was telling the truth. We said yes. He said wrong. Then we asked him, why are you asking us all these questions? He said it was because we liked it. And we said wrong. So that's a funny poem. This is called The One You Stop Is You. We met me in a shelter, waiting for a bus. We said we didn't like me. I was afraid of us. We stood in my way to stop me getting on the bus, but the driver would only drive if I was on the bus. So we all got on as I was one of us. So that's a funny one, isn't it? where it doesn't quite make sense, this talk of I and me and we and us. It's a bit confusing. But that's one of the things about poetry, is that you don't have the normal rules that you would in other kinds of writing. My 5 senses. You know your 5 senses? Sight, hearing, taste, smell and touch. The 5 senses. I can't see my own eyes. I know because I looked. I can't hear myself snore. I tried, but I fell asleep. I can't taste my own tongue because the tongue gets in the way. I can't smell my own nose because I can't turn my nose inside out. And the tip of my finger can't touch the tip of itself because the tip of my finger is on the tip of my finger. So next week we're going to start thinking about writing some poems. It might be good to start with rhyming poems. So I will try and find some rhyming poems to read you. But these aren't. These are more like short story poems. Okay, so we got to this poem here. It's halfway through the book. So this will be the last one I read, where broccoli comes from. And then another day I might read on in the book. This next one's called True. There's an explanation here. I always find it great fun to pretend to be someone else when I write poems. I was thinking here that I could pretend to be an expert on where things come from and how things grow, but really getting it all wrong. Where broccoli comes from. Not many people know that broccoli grows in the armpits of very big green men who live in the forest, and brave broccoli cutters go deep into the forests and they creep up on the very big green men. They wait for the very big green men to fall asleep, and the broccoli cutters get out their great big broccoli razors and they shave the armpits of the very big green men. And that's where broccoli comes from. Not many people know that. Just thought I'd let you know. That's funny, isn't it? Michael Rosen makes great silly poems. But we'll look at some other poets as well next week. And there's no work tomorrow. It's a bank holiday, May Day. And also the 75th anniversary of VE Day. Victory in Europe when the war was won against the Germans. 1945. Right, so have a great long weekend. And back next week. Take care.